Now, controversy's favourite child, Bollywood actor Kangana Ranaut, once again stokes controversy. After her freedom as Bheek remark, the national award-winning actor has now dragged Mahatma Gandhi in a series of Instagram posts. Mocking the father of the nation, Kangana says that one needs to choose their heroes wisely. An individual who supports Bapu can't support Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose at the same time. Kangana Ranaut says that those who fought for freedom were turned to masters by those who didn't have the courage to really fight the oppressors, adding that offering another cheek won't really get Azadi, but will only get Bheek. Kangana claims that Gandhi never supported Bose and that he wanted Bhagat Singh to be hanged. Multiple complaints have now been filed against Kangana Ranaut across the country in states like Rajasthan, Maharashtra and Jharkhand.
देखिए, हर आदमी का कहने का तरीका होता है, लेकिन कंगना को भी ये समझना चाहिए कि आज़ादी के लोगों का किसी भी तरह से अगर किसी स्टेटमेंट से आज़ादी के दीवानों का, आज़ादी के उन समय के लोगों का उनका अगर भाव कम करते हैं आप, तो ये अच्छा नहीं रहेगा।
शिवसेना की भूमिका बहुत स्पष्ट है कि जो बेताल उन्होंने बयानबाजी की है, उसको देखते हुए ये सेडिशन की, राष्ट्रद्रोह की ये केस होती है। उनका पद्म जो पुरस्कार उनको दिया गया है वो सरकार ने वापस लेना चाहिए।
कंगना रावत के बारे में मैं अभी कुछ नहीं, क्योंकि इतनी बात बार बार वो छेड़ रही है देश में, महाराष्ट्र में, मुंबई में, वो गलत और उसको सपोर्ट करने वाले कौन है आपको पता है? वो कुछ उसके कहते नहीं, इसके लिए उसका ज़्यादा ही मॉरल बढ़ रहा है।
So on paper, we got independence, fine. End of British rule at one level. But it is people who had suppressed the revolutionaries like Subhas Chandra Bose and Savarkar, genuine patriots. It is those people who had come to power. And they were basically loyal to the British. So it would not be very wrong to say there's a transfer of power also. So history cannot be summed up in one or two lines. The various layers and layers of truth.
Now, my colleague Akshita Nandagopal there, earlier in conversation with Netaji's daughter Anita Bose on Kangana Ranaut's recently passed remarks on Independence Day. Let's take a listen what she had to say.
Anita, thank you for joining us here on India Today. Good morning to you. What do you make of Kangana's comment? You know, in a series of Instagram posts, she's now said that Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru were ready to hand over Netaji to the British. What do you make of this comment?
I don't know of any such event, but I think it is rather mute now to discuss the question of whether one or the other freedom fighter did more for independence. I think all the freedom fighters and the millions of people who participated in the struggle for independence, who were quite unknown, generally speaking, contributed to India's independence. It's not a question of one having been the only father of independence. And we are certainly in a situation to say today that the relationship between Mahatma Gandhi and my father was of a difficult nature insofar that on the one hand, Gandhi always felt that he sort of could not control my father. On the other hand, we also have to realize that my father was a great admirer of Mahatma Gandhi, and throughout his struggle for independence always paid attention to whether he reacted to anything that he, being my father, did and what his reaction was. For example, he always wanted to know whether there was a reaction to his speeches from Germany or to his independence struggle started from the Far East. So this whole argument about there having been enemies is a very one-sided way of looking at it. On the one hand, they were comrades in arms, so to say, fighting for the same goal, and on the other hand, they did not agree entirely on how to do that. And particularly Mahatma Gandhi and my father were of a different opinion, and Pandit Nehru in many ways was sort of hedging and not siding with either one completely, or in the long run, then of course he decided to side with the Gandhian supporters. Or at least did not oppose them.
Yes, and you've pointed out how they did have differences. But what do you make of this entire argument and this debate that, it was Gandhi and Nehru versus Netaji and the likes of Bhagat Singh? What do you have to say really about these kind of binaries? Because there's a huge debate on it on social media after what Kangana said.
Both of them were great heroes and fought for India's independence. And you might argue one could have done without the other. I doubt it. Ultimately, I think it was a combination of factors which led to India's independence. It certainly was not like some of the Congress members wanted to claim for a long time, that it was only non-violent action that was responsible for gaining independence. I think we know very well from sources that became available years after independence that the actions of Netaji and the INA contributed in a very important way. After all, the mutiny of the military forces were caused by a reaction to learn about the INA activities and the Red Fort trials. But on the other hand, it's equally nonsensical to say it was only Netaji and the INA who brought about independence. Gandhi was a most inspiring and important leader to many Indians, including Netaji.
You make a very compelling point and a very balanced perspective, on this entire debate and argument. I also want to get your point, ma'am, and your perspective on what Kangana said earlier. There's a huge controversy that played out here last week also, when Kangana said that our freedom in 1947 was Bheek. What do you make of that?
I think there's no point in taking a very naive one-side